Good morning, KW Milwaukee. I hope everybody had an incredible New Year's and holiday season. I know I took some time off and really unplugged, and I hope that you did the same with you and yours and your families, and that you're able to recharge your batteries and get back into it, ready to hit the ground running as we are here to celebrate 2021 and move forward into 2022, despite everything that is going on around the world. Expect great things to happen. So here we go. We're jumping into it. And I want to lead with this because I want to ground you on what we left you with in December to make sure that you're focused, right, heading into 2021. And as we think, or heading into 2022, I apologize, right? And so I want to reframe your thinking as we come back into 2022 around imagine life is a game in which you are juggling 5 balls. The balls are called work, family, health, friends, and integrity, and you're keeping all of them in the air. But one day you will finally come to understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. The other 4 balls, family, health, friends, integrity, are made of glass. If you drop one of these, it will be irrevocably scuffed, nicked, perhaps even shattered. And we're going to talk about one of those things today as it relates around integrity and your reputation. And we're going to have a little bit of a panel discussion here shortly, really honing in on the integrity aspect. But the reason I lead with this is I hope that you took some time out of your lives, professional lives, to focus on your personal lives here, heading into 2022 over the last couple of weeks, so that you're refreshed, you're refocused, and that you're ready to hit the ground running in 2022. So with that, a couple updates for you. In the last team meeting of the year in 2021 on December 21st, we talked about the Keller Concierge Ready to Sell program, which offered up to a $75,000 loan at 0% interest for 12 months. If you had not had the opportunity to take the training, we will make sure that we send all the details as it relates to this program out in the Insights and Resources email that will go out today or by tomorrow morning at the latest. We will also make sure that we resend out the recording of this conversation with the Keller Offers team. The coolest thing about this too, this program, is the Keller Offers team is constantly looking for local contractors that are bonded, insured, and licensed in southeastern Wisconsin. So we need your help. We need your contractor recs. So we'll make sure to include that link within this program so we can make it as robust as possible so that your clients can take advantage of this incredible offering of a line of credit to help them maximize their return on investment. As a reminder for your clients to be able to utilize this program, you do need to complete the training in advance. So visit app.kelleroffers.com to begin the on-demand training in order to take advantage of this opportunity. So be on the lookout for the links and resources in our follow-up in the Insights and Resources email that we send out on a weekly basis. Next up, I also want to remind the group that we have added a ton of concierge products available to you guys to use here at the local level, from transaction management to website creation to MLS entry to database management to 36-touch management, marketing stats and materials, listing graphs, all of it, business coaching, all of it can be found on our kwrealtymke.com. And if you need access to any of these or you haven't taken advantage of them, such as leaning on us to help you create your new listing presentation or your new buyer consultation packet or whatever it is that you may be, what I think people are missing is a real opportunity to create leverage within their business. And we've been looking at ways to create leverage within your businesses through our Concierge MKE program. Be on the lookout as we're adding more things on a weekly basis every single day as we look to reinvent the value offering and services that we provide you guys to make sure that you can take advantage of your killer 2022. Awesome. Couple other updates for you guys. Real quickly, as it relates to our office space here on 205 East Silver Spring here in the North Shore office, phase 1, which is the renovation of what was the former Float Life space, is about 80% complete, and as well as what we would consider the former annex space. This phase 1 of the project should be completed by January 14th. We may still be furniture and some things may still be in transit, but you will start to see teams as well as the leadership team, as well as some other people who are taking in these office spaces, will be moving back in January 14th. What this also means, though, is phase 2 demolition, which was the historical North Shore space, is set to begin on January 11th. So you will see some what I would consider, pardon our dust, as we start to convert some conferences into offices, and also building out new conference rooms where Sydney currently sits. So there will be a little bit of an adjustment here, but know that we are starting to begin on phase 2 of the historical space where KW North Shore originally began, starting the week of January 11th. So as you go on to book conference rooms, I'm just giving you a heads up that we may be putting people in maybe some different locations here as we go through phase 2 of construction, which is hoped to be completed here in spring of 2022. One other thing, a couple people have asked about this. We are planning to move forward with the landscaping project on the western side along Shoreland Avenue. These plans are set to begin in spring of 2022. As a reminder of here is kind of what we're looking to do, as long as adding the ability for people to move in and out of the space by adding big French doors and things, so that we can bring the North Shore office up to the level of standard at which we have in the Lake Country and innovation space as well. So exciting things to come from a physical location standpoint. Next up, as a reminder, we're looking to hire over in the North Shore. So if you know anybody that is interested in joining the leadership team, we are looking to hire a director of first impressions. Feel free, you can see here of what we're looking for in terms of an incredibly radiantly positive person to create an incredible environment to welcome associates, clients, and guests. If you know of anybody who's interested, we love leaning on our network of people who would like to join our team. Please reach out to Sydney to apply. It's interesting. As many of the teams are that are looking to hire talent right now, so are we. And it is incredibly difficult. And we love leaning on our network to find people that you may know that would like to join our environment. So please let us know if you know of anybody that would be interested in joining our team. Next up, 2 other couple quick people updates, then we're going to jump into some of the meat and potatoes. Is on December 21st, we introduced this group to our newest team leader for the innovation space, Josh Shadler, who's coming to us after 18 years with the Milwaukee Bucks. He begins January 10th, so next week, Monday. You'll see a formal announcement coming out from us this week, inclusive of his contact information as well as a bio. You can see his beautiful family here, but we're super excited for him to begin with us January 10th. Another people update is Kimmy Herbert will be formally coming back from maternity leave on January 10th. So Kimmy's been gone for the last 12 weeks, while Joan and Steph Cunard have been holding down the fort for us. We sincerely appreciate everything Steph and Joan have taken on for us while Kimmy has been gone. But Kimmy, we welcome you back into supporting our teams here across all 3 locations here on January 10th. And we look forward to welcoming you back into the fold. So with that, I'm going to flip it over to Brad Yates, who has a quick KW Tech update for the group. Brad
Good
Yates.
morning and Happy New Year. Can you hear me, Charlie?
You're good.
Good. Hey, I don't know if many people know, speaking of babies, Lindsay Barnack had a baby, and a cute little boy named Billy, Will, came out last month. And so there are several of us that are filling in for her right now. One of the quick things that I've had people ask me about, and I want everyone here to commit to this one simple New Year's thing. When you open a transaction or you start an opportunity in Command, I want you to automatically connect it to your DocuSign and Zip forms. I think everybody can see my screen right now, so I'm going to make it real quick. You want to go ahead and you want to create your opportunity. So there's a little blue button here, create your opportunity. I am going to, and practice on yourself. So I have my name in here. I'm going to be a buyer. My client, oh, come on. Wouldn't you know it? Brad Yates is not going to show up today. So, but I'll go ahead and make sure that I'm in here. I had this all set up. I guess not today. Change owner account. Okay, create. There we go. And go to. I apologize. it would do this today of all days. Default group, there's listing, and I'm not in there. So I apologize. We will just do a different client, and I was supposed to be a quick 2-minute, but while I'm doing this, I want to remind everybody doing office hours. I will be doing office hours every Tuesday and Thursdays. Tuesdays, 11:30 for an hour. Every Thursday, I will be doing office hours at 11 a.m. and they will be for an hour. If you have any questions, that is a great time to come in and chat with me. And also, if you are in midst of an immediate question and need help, there is our Gmail account that you can, that's run by 4 or 5 of us. And that is all done. No, it's not going to do it today. I apologize. I'll have to save this till next Tuesday and figure out why my opportunities are not showing up in there. So I apologize immensely, but we'll commit to it next Tuesday when I can do this and show you all at once. But kwmketech@gmail.com. You have questions, concerns, anything, use that web or that email, and that's housed by Sydney, myself, and 2 other great people in each office. Sorry about that, Charlie.
Brad Yates, you're all good. If you want to do me a favor, will you drop that email into the chat section so that these guys, when they have questions, that we know that we can get back to them on an immediate response?
Yes, and I will also take the time in the next couple days to make a little short 2-minute video on how to do this, and I'll put that video onto our Facebook page so you can view it in your own time. Commit to doing this. I'm telling you, it's so many issues. People ask me, I can't connect my DocuSign or zip forms after. Do it when you first start the transaction. Happy New Year.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate all you're doing to help us cover while Lindsay is out on maternity leave. Cool. All right, so guys, I'm going to flip it over to a panel discussion, and we talked about how one of those 5 balls was integrity, right? And I think as I reflect on the last 2 years, a lot of things have maybe challenged some people within the market, in the market of the moment, where you may not have seen the best in some of your co-brokes, some of your peers, whatever it may be. And we were having a discussion here locally, a handful of us, and we were talking about what it was within the market that brought some of those things out. So we wanted to plant some themes to make you think, right? And before we jump into the panel, I want to remind the group, you have 2 tangible assets in this business. Who knows what they are? And feel free to either shout them out or throw them in the chat section. We talk about this all the time. 2 tangible assets in your business. What are they?
Your reputation.
Database. Oh, Ross Treffert, I knew you would be there for me, brother. Database and reputation, right? If you think about your 2 tangible assets in this business, it's your database and it's your reputation, right? And so what I want to do is introduce you our panel this morning, and I want you to think about something, because I want you to understand where these people were to where they were as the end of 2021, because you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. So here's our panel. Annie Stabler, a great agent out of Lake Country. In 2016, 5 years ago, she was not in the game of real estate. In 2021, she closed over $11 million in closed production. You can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. Amanda Schroeder, 5 years ago, 2016, had just gotten into the real estate game, was learning under the wings of Joni Reed, right? She had just left the restaurant and hospitality business. And 5 years later, she runs a team that did 30 million in 2021. Janine Warner. Janine used to be in real estate down in Texas, took a little bit of a hiatus. In 2016, her, Jay, and a handful of others were just starting this journey of building out their team. They completed 50 million in closed production at the end of 2016. 5 years later, their team closed over 200 million in closed production. 5 years later. You can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. What these people understand is they invested in 2 things, their database and their reputation, right? So I'm gonna give an intro to these guys. Janine, Annie, and Amanda, I hope you will join us here for a conversation. And Janine, I'm going to kick it off with you, because you and I had this conversation where you actually gave me this idea. And we talked a little bit around some of the things that you had seen and felt in the last 2 years of the marketplace, and just kind of dig into some of your thoughts and feelings of the way in which people have interacted or reacted to certain things, the way in which the market has moved.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you. A few things that I'm acutely aware of as the years have gone by, because I haven't been in it that long, but I think number one is I heard this a long time ago and I stick to it as much as I possibly can, is to be the calmest person in the entire transaction. So not only are you the calmest between you and your client, your buyer, your seller, but also with your co-broke. So when things start going a little off kilter and there's some heated discussions, I always remind myself that my job is to be the calmest person in the transaction. Number two, I despise a ton of texting going back and forth between my clients and or my co-broke. Anything more than one or two sentences deserves a phone call or an email. Your emotions can be misguided through a text. And honestly, I look at it as, would my physician, would my attorney be texting me back and forth? Absolutely not. To me it doesn't show a lot of professionalism. So I pick up the phone, I have a conversation, I follow it up with an email, and I do little texting. If I text, I will text someone and say, please check your email, or check your voicemail. Let's have a time to chat over the phone, because I think it just takes a lot of energy to go back and forth via text, and it's sending a message that, in my opinion, this is not professional. So those are the big two nuggets. And always remember, for me, it's a win-win. Your sellers want to win. Your co-brokes buyers want to win. We all want to win. So let's try to do it together and keep it positive.
Totally. Janine, thinking past in the last 2 years, and I don't want you to call anybody out, but do you have any sort of good example that you can maybe lean on in terms of what I would consider to be a war story of like, hey guys, this is a good example of something you should stay away from?
Yeah, and there's a few out there, and they're not with Keller Williams, I'll tell you that. And it's not even a war story as much as I know when I'm going to deal with these few particular agents, I'm going to be doing both sides of the transaction. They will have me do basically all of their work and my work on top of it. And I hesitate to dance with them. I hesitate to go into a transaction with them. And the first couple times, I would try to change their behavior and put it back on them. And it does help. But now knowing kind of how they do their business, I'm not going to fight it so much in my head, because ultimately I want this to close. So I already know what I'm dealing with. I can't believe it's going to happen again, but it does. History repeats itself. So instead of just putting up the guard like, oh God, here we go again, I look at this as, all right, I already know what I'm up against, and this is how I'm going to approach it differently. And that's the best that I can do. I'm just not going to hold a grudge and dive into why they're doing it their way. I just keep moving it along.
Totally. You remain the calmest agent in the transaction.
Yeah,
however, I want people to also hear, when she's in an environment where she's working with multiple offers, don't get it twisted that isn't a part of the consideration process.
Absolutely. That is extremely important, because I know I'm going to work double hard. Not only that, when I have a listing that's going live, everything is online. The pre-home inspection, the condition report, and I'm being blown up by one or two agents asking me a ton of questions. Everything is there. I am already kind of seeing what that transaction is going to look like with that particular agent. I feel already that their buyers are super nervous. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my head too. I'm already getting a lot of questions that are clearly already answered. And what am I going to be up against when I have four other agents that are, even before the offer is written, I can already feel that this is going to be a smoother transaction. So kind of watch yourself prior to writing that offer. Not a bad thing to ask questions, but dig deep into what's already in MLS, in the documents. Start doing your own research before you start blowing up that co-broke's phone. Just a little
Yeah,
tit for tat.
totally. Janine, thank you. Annie, I'm going to flip it over to you. For someone who has literally in the last 5 years gone from nothing into an incredible book of business and has built a phenomenal reputation. And mind you, she's done this all while being a mother of four at home. Her husband runs Johnson Financial's insurance group. Like, she's got a ton of stuff going on. Annie, how have you been able to kind of, especially in the last 2 years, really hone in on how you manage co-broke relationships and communication styles with your clients to like see through success at the end of a transaction?
Well, it's funny because I know Janine talks about not texting, and I feel like my client base especially does do a lot of texting, which for my lifestyle is helpful because I can communicate with them quickly and easily, whether I'm sitting at a basketball game watching my kid play or whatever I'm doing. Yet to Janine's point, I have to consciously stop myself from getting too in depth and know when to stop and pick up the phone. Communication's always been a huge hot button of mine in any relationship. So I try to kind of over communicate rather than under communicate, whether it's with my clients or co-brokes. I think the times where I have run into problems in transactions with people on the other side, it's always communication. That hasn't happened, or miscommunications because people didn't take the time to stop and read through documents that were online, or ask the right questions if the information wasn't available to them. So I think that that constant communication has been really key for me in my business.
Yeah, and and I think you're totally spot on too. I think, what I think the group want or should be hearing here is there's diversity of thought and there's diversity of approach in the way you handle this, right? You have to know either A, who you are, and B, who your clients are in order for you to effectively communicate, right, in the most efficient manner. And Janine's style works for her and her clients, and Annie's style works for her and her clients. I think, yeah, go ahead, Annie.
I was just going to say, one of the questions that I always ask my clients up front is how they prefer to communicate. And I kind of then at that point lay out for them, okay, here's the situation. If it's like quick questions, things like that, we can communicate, via text. More in-depth stuff, there's some things we're going to have conversations with over the phone about. And then there's other times where you're going to get emails from me that outline updates, because then I want you to be able to reference that. So it comes down to communication in the upfront of setting the guidelines of how you're going to interact with one another. And then in talking to people on the other side too, I always like to know how do my co-brokes prefer to communicate? Because like, I know Janine would prefer me to pick up the phone and give her a call, even if it's a quick thing, probably to just say, hey, Janine, here's the update on this, rather than getting it in a text or an email. And there are other people who I know just traditionally will never answer the phone. And so the only way that I can get a hold of them is to send them a text. And if it needs to be a phone conversation, to first send them a text and say, hey, I've got something to talk to you about, but it's got to happen over the phone when you have 5 minutes.
Totally. I think in my perception of what's going on in the market and what's forcing people to think about the way they're communicating is that agents are not thinking about their co-broke on the other side to ask the question as they would of their client. Right. And so what I mean by that is when you're going through a transaction, and Janine alluded to the fact that your goal is to get it to a win-win relationship with your co-broke, are you also asking your co-broke to say, level setting, to say, hey, great, how do we want to communicate to make sure that we're getting through this together?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what else? Any other tips, tricks, and advice of someone who manages such a big business, as well as, I love everything that you do in terms of your every soccer game or basketball game or whatever it is, in terms of balancing your life and managing the market of the moment. Any other advice that you'd give to the group?
I think that just what I've had to realize to myself for myself is that it's not always going to be perfect, and sometimes you have to get help. And that is something that I am going to be focusing on this year, particularly in my business. To your point that you talked about earlier, is using leverage where leverage is due, and knowing what things I need to focus on, lining up my priorities. Because the reason that I can go to those basketball games, and when I got into this, I always said I'm not going to miss my kids' stuff for work, and knowing how to plan my business accordingly is just the only way to keep my sanity. And it's never perfect. Sometimes I have to stop and course correct. But it is possible to lead a busy personal life and be successful in this business if you're willing to get help where you need it.
Totally. Love it. Annie, thank you for being an inspiration for so many and having incredible success in 2021. And we look forward to an incredible year in 2022 for you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Schroeder, all right, I'm flipping it over to you.
Right.
You've seen the best of it. You've seen the worst of it, right? What are some of your tips and tricks as it relates to navigating some of the good behavior and bad behavior that we've seen within the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, I think, what Janine and Annie both said, that is totally true for me as well. But I think, especially with the last couple of years, what we've seen in the market, these like many offers on a listing, which I just experienced again this weekend, is an even more intense co-broke situation. And it's even more important to stand out in a good way if you are writing an offer, because there are so many agents contacting a listing agent about the same property that, just like Janine said, every interaction I have with another agent, from the time they schedule their showing to how they handle themselves on the showing to when they turn in the offer and follow up with me, those all come into play when I'm presenting offers to my sellers, because it does make a difference. And it certainly tells something about what it's likely to be like when we're in that transaction. So, texting the agent to let them know you're sending an offer over can be nice if you're getting phone calls from 15 agents at the same time. But simple stuff like, say your name, what broker you're with. When you're sending the email over, also reach out by phone or text to say, I've sent over the offer by email. Being considerate of how you put together that offer. Don't send separate emails for every document, because that's how you had them signed in zip forms. Take the time to put them together in one PDF in order, and then send that to me. If you want bonus points and you want to look like a rock star, put a cover page on it, or at least write the details of your offer in the email. Those small things can make such a difference for your client, because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about our clients. But it also makes such a difference for your client because it makes it easier for your co-broke. If they're annoyed with you from the start, that will come through in that offer, one way or the other. And it's going to make that whole transaction difficult. So I think being considerate of what you would appreciate on the other side is so important, and understanding that you're not the only person texting this agent about this listing. And like Janine said, if you're getting tons of questions from a worried buyer, we are the filter. So if you have a co-broke who is not the most pleasant person to work with, or you have a client who is super freaked out, it is not our job to just hot potato that and throw it at the next person. It's our job to be the filter. We are the calmest person in the transaction. That means what we are delivering is the basic message, the important information without emotion, and making sure that we are delivering that in a way that it is given with perspective of the big picture, with the perspective of we have the same goal in mind, we want to get to the same place. There's going to be give and take on both ends. And like Annie said, setting expectations and setting the tone from the beginning can play a huge role in that, not just with our client, but with our co-broke. And I also think just understanding that we're all people. When I started in this business, and Joni can attest to this, I was kind of a snot. I was like, what's with these agents who have like time off? I don't answer my phone after 7. What's that? Like, yes, we are people. We should be allowed to have time off of work. And taking the time to ask your co-broke those questions is so appreciated on the other end. It goes a long way. It just makes the relationship that much more enjoyable. And then you're not forcing this every step of the way, wondering like, well, I'm going to send this over, but I don't know if they're going to get it signed and back to me by the end of the night, because who knows? Like, find out what their schedule's like, find out when they prefer to communicate. I'm going to send you a text and say, I'd love to talk through this when you have a minute. And then you're not catching them like in the middle of a grocery store with their 3 kids, like set the stage for the best communication you can, the most enjoyable experience for everyone. Because not only is that great for your client, but if you're co-brokes with a different brokerage and they had a wonderful experience with you, they're a lot more likely to talk to you later when you're trying to talk to them about why KW is great. Like, it's just win-win-win. So just think outside of yourself, and I think that will guide you to do the right thing.
And guys, what I want to reiterate, and this, for many of you, this may seem like completely rudimentary, or like, why are we even reviewing this? Here's the facts. When March and April comes and the market's flying at 100 miles an hour, what I know is people lose these things at 100 miles an hour. And so people that you would normally interact with, that you would think this would be very rudimentary things for someone who's been in the business for a long time, the market of the moment causes people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And what causes them to not normally do is they become reactive, they become emotional, they take things subjectively, they misread text messages, they misread emails. And so what we're trying to do is reframe your thinking around your communication style with not only your clients, but as well as your co-brokes, so you can come to win-win resolutions within the transaction. Because it's so often, more often than not, the first thing that goes out the window in a transaction, when it starts to get heated, when I look at it and someone sits down with me and says, hey, this person's being a total, butthead, will you help me figure this out? I say, great, let me look at it. And we look at it and you say, well, it all started here. Communication broke down here, and now we're here, and there was like 30 things in between. Well, we could have just fixed it right up front. And so it were just great reminders, as Janine, Amanda, and Andy and I have been talking over the last couple of weeks, is just like, guys, great reminders for the group that we're heading into a very similar market that we saw in spring of 21. And they're great, just making sure that they're top of mind to protect your co-broke reputation, so that your reputation doesn't inhibit your client's ability to win a deal. Make sense? Awesome. Janine, Amanda, Annie, guys, thank you for the tidbits and insights. And as Ross just put in the chat section, great markets don't last, great agents do. So guys, thank you for chiming in. Awesome. All right, we're flipping back into it. And every year for the last, I've been doing this now for 5 years. I always give a phrase of focus, right? And it's something that I put on my whiteboard, and I look in my office every single day when I come into the market center or the office, and I say, all right, what do I want to get done in the year? What do I need to reframe my thinking? And I want to kind of put something out there for you guys as we head into 2022, for something that you're going to think about, or that you can think about, or for something that I think about every single day that helps me lead you or guide you, or put a theme of focus for you guys as we head into the new year. And as I go back the last couple of years, 2020, what I shared with you guys was a year of great expectancy, right? And a lot of people will look at me and say, well, that's totally BS. How can you say 2020 was a great year of expectancy? However, my frame of thinking was around in January of 2020 that we were going to have a great year, right? If you were to ask me that in May, I would have said you were crazy. However, look at where we finished by the end of December of 2020. It was a great year on so many levels, right? In 2021, after coming out of 2020, I said, man, there were really 3 key phrases that I need to focus in on the group that we're going to hone in on from a themes perspective, right? Don't mistake movement for achievement. I see a lot of agents who do a lot of things, but it doesn't mean they're actually achieving anything, right? 2, time. We all have the same amount of it, right? Everybody has 24 hours in a day. What separates those between those who produce or produce at an efficient level, whatever it is that is, or is how and where they spend their time, because it varies greatly. 3, as you think about it, and this was all last year's 3 phrases of focus, what you give in life is what you get in life, right? And so as we think back to what Janine, Annie, and Amanda shared with us, what you give in life is what you get in life, right? Those were kind of my 3 themes for 2021. Now here I'm going to share with you what my phrase of focus, and I have 2 of them for 2022 that I'm going to really hone in on with this group for 2022 from a themes perspective. And if I look back at everything that we've been through in the last 2 years, there's 2 common themes that show up. And I said this to my group yesterday as we all got back into the office and started getting back into a routine. If you think about everything we faced in the last 2 years, think about it like this: pandemic, check. We got that. We figured it out, right? Like COVID spiking again, it is what it is. We're going to have to manage it. We can't control it. So, but guess what? We've been able to figure out how to navigate it effectively, right? You think through the market of the moment, inventory is really low. Guess what? It's not an excuse. It's just a fact. We're going to have to deal with it. There's a ton of buyers who are tired. Guess what? It's a fact. We're just going to have to deal with it, right? So my phrase of focus for you guys in 2022 that you're going to show up through themes throughout the year, from our training calendar to the way that we approach team meeting to the way that we interact with each other, is this: 1, be resilient. There isn't anything that we haven't already faced in the last 2 years that we aren't going to face in 2022, right? So be resilient. 2, take care of each other. 3, bring the noise. Those are my 3 focuses for 2022. Be resilient, take care of each other, and bring the noise. What I mean by bring the noise is here's a fact. There are more licensed associates in the Greater Milwaukee Association of Realtors than ever before today. You know how you break through the noise when there's a lot of people out on the streets asking if everybody wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Make more noise. How do you play a big game? Play a bigger game. Right? So those are going to be my themes throughout 2022. And as we think through and coming out of the conversations with Janine, Andy, and Amanda, is that so much of this showed up in their tips and tricks and the way in which they deal with co-brokes. And you're going to see that our team's going to show up for you in the ways in which we've been before, which is be resilient. We're going to take care of each other, and we're going to continue to bring the noise. And the way noise shows up will help you secure more market share and earn more business. Make sense? Awesome. All right, we're going to wrap it up. And Sheriff Reed, I'm going to ask you to jump on, because we've seen a few things as it relates to liability and following up on post-closing disputes. So what do these guys need to know as it relates to post-closing disputes?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I brought this around because Steph and I are getting some questions about what happens after a closing. Your client who has gone through the closing is calling you and saying, help, either the seller or the buyer. And so I wanted to put out some guidance tips on what your reaction should be and how you prevent this kind of liability that is happening. The first type of situation, it's the broker and the consumer have a dispute. So they're mad about something you did or Keller Williams did, and this is coming up after closing. In the quick example I have here, there was no heat to one of an attached room. There was no door between the 2 rooms. There were heat registers in there, but when the buyer moved in, he realized there was no heat actually in that room. He checked back on the marketing of that house, and it said that it was a 4-season room. So now he's suing the company or the agent because he has, you can go to the next slide, because he has seen that what he read, that there was a 4-season room, implied that the broker was saying that there was heat in that room. And what we have to realize that a licensee in Wisconsin can be found liable for inaccurate statements made by the agent, broker, which appear to the buyer to be true, be a fact. So you're saying 4-season room, you're not attributing to anything you know, so it comes across in the marketing, in the data sheets at MLS, like that is a fact. In Wisconsin, a law provides that the inexperienced buyers should be entitled to rely on factual statements made by a professional. So if it goes to court, the court will say, you know, you said that that was a heated room. You said that it was four season. You are the liability in this situation. So way to prevent that, the way to really be careful in those situations is always attribute the data that you put, whether it's room size, lot size, heat, whatever, attribute it to its source. You can say per the municipality, per the seller. That's probably the most common one. The seller told me this. I didn't come up with this fact myself. This is per the seller. So make sure that you're always attributing data to a source. And then there always is a general disclaimer that says this information may not be accurate, as you see on our data sheets. But they are saying that the disclaimers may not provide certain and absolute protection. So always attribute the source of what you're putting down so that the consumer isn't coming back to you and Keller Williams after closing and saying, you know, you told me there was hardwood floors under here and there are not. You told me there was heat in this room and there is not. Attribute it to the source. Don't make it sound like it's your information. Now the next
Joan,
type, yeah.
Sorry, quick question on that. I've seen a lot recently with agents putting in the private remarks that room sizes per seller or to be verified by the agent, because private remarks don't technically always get shared with a buyer. They're always shared with the agent, but maybe that agent doesn't print off that sheet or doesn't share those comments with the buyer. So the buyer might never find out about it until something like this comes up. Are you still covered if you put a phrase like that in private remarks, even though that isn't necessarily a public remark?
You're better covered than if you don't have it. At least they can, in the court, you can point to the fact that you did disclose this, that it was per the seller and not yours. The fact that the buyer didn't get that it came from the seller, you could at least show that you did put it in there. And then the liability might swing over to that buyer's agent.
Okay.
So the next slide shows the second type of post-closing disputes, and these are the more common ones. It's between the buyer and the seller. And because you have been a really good buyer's agent or really good listing agent, that client still relies on you for help. And so the first thing that will happen after they move into the house and realize there's no heat or realize there's foundation problems, like in this example, you see that there's a lot of water in the basement and nobody said that there was going to be water. There was nothing in the record about water in the basement. So now your client calls you and says, call the listing agent, call the seller, this is happening, you know, there was nothing about that. In this example, the home inspection did not reveal it and the record did not reveal it. But when the buyer moved in to the house, there was heavy rain going on and water was coming in through the walls of the basement. They are going to call you for help. And so is anyone liable here? The seller did not disclose. Are the listing agents and buyer's agents involved? Do the agents have a role here? So switch to the next slide. And it is definitive. This is between the buyer and the seller. This is no longer between Shar West and Keller Williams or their co-broke agent and you. You have to nicely remind your client who is calling you and very upset that this is an issue that should be resolved with the seller. And if you need to get a hold of an attorney for assistance as well. But don't, and I know it's very hard for a lot of us because we're so used to helping people and solving their problems. This is where we don't. And all we can really advise them is to either contact an attorney or try to work it out themselves. Because if you do try to help them, try to get a hold of the seller, try to, find out why they didn't say anything, you are exposing yourself to potential liability. So stay back, stay polite, but don't assist or give advice, which might come out as legal advice. So to hold the seller liable, the buyer will generally need to find out that the seller actually knew it before they closed on it or wrote the offer and failed to disclose. So non-disclosure is a way to sue a seller, but it's not our role to help, even in the smallest bit. So last slide is sort of rounded up. Is there broker liability in this buyer-seller dispute? This is where you can get into trouble, and it's if the court finds that you in any way during this transaction misrepresented something or didn't tell the whole story, or if you didn't meet your licensing standard of competent performance, meaning you really didn't look at the property and you should have seen it yourself, or it would see undertaking a performance of a specific task and failing to do so properly. You knew about it, but you let it drop, you didn't find out. That in that way, an agent can be drawn into a buyer-seller dispute. But stay clean, stay out of that. Remember, in either situation, broker-consumer or buyer-seller dispute, let us know right away. Communicate with any of the compliance brokers, Steph, me, or Kimmy, as soon as there's any kind of a flare-up like this. Let us know what the situation is so that we can make sure that we handle it on a timely basis and we're aware of it. Don't wait a couple of weeks and say, oh, by the way, there was a letter from a lawyer from my buyer who closed on a house. We need to know about these as soon as possible.
Totally.
So that's my friendly reminder today.
No, Sheriff Reed, thank you. Guys, one of the things we've noticed in 2021 is there was more litigious situations as it relates between buyers and sellers than in any year that we recall. And I think a lot of that has to do with, a lot of people waiving many of the contingencies that protect buyers. And because of that, then people get in a very litigious situation to try and find someone who's in the wrong. And typically, where do they go? They go to the person who has insurance. And guess who has insurance? Every single one of you who should be raising your hand. So we remind you of these things to help protect you as it relates to these disputes, because people are looking for who is at fault. So Sheriff Reed, thank you for bringing this to our attention. All right, guys, wrapping it up, a few upcoming training and events for you. As a reminder, upcoming live in person in Orlando, Florida, as well as digital. We will be getting information as it relates to our plans locally here with KW Milwaukee. February 19th to the 22nd down in Orlando is Keller Williams Family Reunion. I remember the last time, it was February of 2020. I was down in, it was Dallas, Texas, with the last day of family reunion, and we all went out to dinner with the KW1 Chicago group, and that was the last time that we all had family reunion live in person. So they are continuing to forge forward with live family reunion. Check it out at events.kw.com /event family reunion 2022. I will tell you this, and you can ask anybody who's been, typically we bring around 50 to 100 people down there every year. This year I get it could be a little different. There's more that I get out of family reunion than any other event of the year. Why? Because it's all breakout rooms, panel discussions, and diversity of thought. And that's the most powerful thing. So interested in family reunion, it is available digitally as well. They are going to have enhanced experiences for those who show up live in person down in Orlando in February of 2022. Also, another little thing as a reminder, if you're looking to level up, is a completely free resource to Mastermind. The Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook group meets every single morning at 7 a.m. Monday, they had 1,300 people on the call. So it's Facebook Live and Zoom every single morning at 7 a.m. They have masterminds with the best in the business every single day. And on Monday's call that had 1,300 people, the January challenges do one CMA every day in January with the expectation of one listing appointment per week. Okay. It's a great place to level set your mindset, And guess what else? Within the Facebook group of Pivot Shift Ahead, these are all recorded. So like me, when I'm trying to get 2 little kids out the door to school and I'm fighting with them on whether they're going to put boots or shoes on in the morning, guess what? I can go and watch this at 8:30 when I get into the office to level set my mindset to start my day. It's a great resource for this group if you haven't checked it out. The fact that there are still 1,300 people engaging on it on a daily basis at 7 a.m. tells me that people are getting the content they want and they're seeing the results in their business, which is why they continue to invest their time to show up. So I thought it was a great reminder for this group as a resource for you as a daily mastermind, again, to get diversity of thought and approach in your business. All right, Wooten, what do we, Accelerator graduates, I'm flipping it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. So in December, we had another round of Accelerator, and I wanted to congratulate Taylor, Danny, Aaron, and Sam. These are agents that have shown that they're ready to jump in and build big businesses. So if you're looking for leverage in your own business with a showing assistant or another agent to partner with, write down these names, get to know them. They'll be ready and willing to help. And then guys, I sent out the education and events calendar yesterday to you. Coming up this week, today, 10:30 launch, Nikki and Amanda in person will be going through finding your big why. So this is the first week of the year, the first week of the quarter. We know you have really, really big goals for 2022. What's going to keep motivating you every day when you wake up in the morning? Come have a conversation with them this morning about finding your big why. And then also productivity, we're shifting our focus a little bit for 2022. And this first month, all throughout January, Connie and Janine are going to be talking about listings. So this week, they're going to be going through all the listing contracts and how to present those to your sellers. And then just look at productivity for the rest of the month. It's all about having a solid listing presentation and making sure you can win the listing. Then next week, we have a special guest speaker. This is part of our wealth building series. So Todd Bootser is a regional director, and he's going to be coming to talk to us about agent financials, making sure that you can get the most money out of your business. That's next Wednesday at 1 p.m. And then on the 19th, we have a free headshot day at the Wauwatosa office. You have to sign up for this. The link is out on Facebook and on the calendar to sign up. Once you sign up, we will assign you your time slot. We want to make sure that we fill the time slots in the right manner. So just free headshots, guys. Let's get it done.
Sweet. Thanks, Wooten. And then guys, as a reminder, we are starting to prepare 1099s for 2021 so that you guys can complete your taxes for the tax season. One of the things that prevents people from getting their 1099s is they moved throughout the year and they didn't notify us. So please make sure if you had moved in 2021 throughout the year or you need to update your contact information, please let us know so that we are able to get your 1099 to you in a timely fashion here in January of 2022. All right, last thing I'm going to leave you with this is we talked about our 3 phases of focus and being resilient, right? Taking care of others and bringing the noise. A very quick sneak peek as it relates to market share. And I talked about how Janine, Annie, and Amanda, they can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. If you look at the market share, this is the last essentially 5 years. From 2017 all the way to 2021, you can see the growth trajectory of essentially the top 5 brands. Of the top 5, there's only been one who grew market share over the 5-year period on a consistent basis, right? You can see here over a 5-year trajectory versus our peer group. One of the things that I will do next week in team meeting is I will go through a very in-depth analysis as to what we learned in 2021, give you insight as to what I see coming down the pike into 2022, even though I've talked about it a lot in the 4th quarter of 21. I'm going to go in depth into what we see in the marketplace, what are the statistics telling us, and how we at KW view the marketplace in order to help hypercharge your business to bring more noise in 2022 in order for you to take the market share you deserve and earn the business that you want to make. Make sense? Guys, thanks for jumping in. Lake Country, I'll let you jump over to the Lake Country Meetup. North Shore and Innovation Crew, I will flip over to new listings and buyer needs. Guys, have a great week. Welcome to 2022, and let's be resilient and bring the noise. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks.